Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks for everybody for joining this call today. My name is Olumide Idowu. Thank you for being part of this call, and I'm so excited to be having everybody coming on board, welcoming every guest. For the sake of us having more people to join us, I'll be giving a buffer time of like 1 to 2 minutes so that we can have some other guests to join us this morning. It's a beautiful morning here in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm very happy to see everybody coming online and to join us today. Yeah. So as you are coming in, as you are joining us, try as much as possible to get ready to learn, to get ready to listen to. These are diverse, great, and impactful young and leaders across the globe. They're going to be sharing with us some fantastic conversation. So for those of you that are just joining us, I just want to give a very quick background on how we want this call to go on and some grand rules so that we don't have to disrupt some conversation that we're having today. Once again, let me remind you, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I'm going to be leading this conversation. I'm going to be moderating this conversation today with great people and with great minds. So one of the grand rules is that please, as you are coming in, mute your mic and off your video so that we can have a good strength of network and a good strength of conversation. As much as possible, as the conversation goes on, if you also have any question you want to ask, please drop a question, Q&A. You will see it on the bottom side of your Zoom call. Those questions there, and some of my team on this call will be able to have a conversation or be able to take your questions and also make sure that we listen and we hear from you so that you can also be part of this conversation. Mind you, I'm going to be sharing your question with all the guests. I'm going to share your questions with all the people that will be talking on this line today. I'm so happy that a lot of people have started joining this call, and I'll keep reminding us of the ground rules so that we'll be able to have a good strength of network so that this conversation will go more clearer to us. Once again, thanks to everybody that just joined this call. Most especially, let me actually give a good thank you to all the speakers that are joining us today. And I will please ask you all, immediately you want to speak, put up your mic and put on your camera so that we can see the face that is sharing wonderful information and very great information with us. We will love to see you. The attendees will love to see you, and we love to have your face to the conversation as well. So thank you very much. I will quickly do a rundown of what we are actually doing today. And I'm so super excited because I'm going to be leading this conversation, and it is a great pleasure for me. And thanks to 111112 Foundation for giving me this opportunity to actually lead this conversation that is very critical when we talk about climate financing across the value chain. So this webinar is organized by 111112 Foundation and is an independent private Nigerian NGO committed to improving all overall quality of our environment by supporting enterprise development in environmental and agricultural sector across Africa, in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. With this little view, you know that this organization is actually doing a great work across the globe and across Africa. And this, they believe, will invariably reduce unemployment by creating more jobs. When we say jobs, green jobs that enhance the quality of environment and add values to the continent economy without compromising the quality of the environment for future generation. So once again, thanks to 111112 Foundation for bringing this series of conversation up, because this is the right time. We want to see young people, we want to see people across the value chain talking about green financing. And this is one of the great conversations we're going to be having. And also, let me quickly also appreciate the Embassy of Sweden to Nigeria for being so passionate, collaborative in partnering with 111112 Foundation to also bring this conversation upward. These are the kind of conversation we are looking forward to build more resilience across the value chain. So thank you very much, Embassy of Sweden to Nigeria. And also, I will not forget the great and the intelligent speakers we're having today. Thank you very much for also avail your time to be part of us today in this conversation, because without you, we will not be able to put this together and not be able to have this conversation. Let me first of all appreciate the ambassador of Sweden to Nigeria that's going to be represented. It's going to be represented here by the deputy representative head of mission embassy. That's going to be representing Anna. Thanks for joining us on this call. I also want to appreciate Maria Auma, the co-founder of BR Globals. She's going to be speaking with us from the United States. Thank you for joining us today, and thanks for what you do and how you have been engaging different kind of sectors on issue of climate financing. I also want to welcome Idrissa Sambataya. He's also going to be speaking to us from Uganda, Green Enterprise Finance Accelerator. Thanks so much for coming today to also have this conversation with us. We know we are going to be hearing different perspectives of green financing, climate financing from different perspectives in Africa as well. And I also want to welcome Dr. Innocent Honor. Thank you very much, sir. He's from the Climate and Green Growth Experts from African Development Bank. You can see when we talk about collaboration, when we talk about institutional structure of climate change and climate financing, we have somebody here that is going to be speaking with us as well from the point of that sector. He's going to be talking to us also on the issue of the climate financing. We gain a lot of experience. We also have more opportunities to also listen and make use of this as an implementation strategy for whether it is research or for project implementation or for local driven activities they are working towards. So thank you very much. And I hope we're going to be having a wonderful conversation. Let's not forget, before we launch into this conversation, a little bit of background of what 111112 Foundation is doing today. They are looking at, they say the COVID-19 pandemic is a crisis that affects everyone, which everybody knows. It has started for a couple of months, and this has been affecting a lot of people, while the origin of the outbreak and its transition pathway are yet to be ascertained. As we also know from different countries we are watching from, we've not yet been able to get the vaccine for this COVID-19, but each country is actually looking forward to how they can contain these diseases so that it will not spread across the border, spread into somewhere. A lot of people are talking about the second phase of COVID-19, but I'm also looking at a possible way whereby we as citizens, we as people can start looking at how can we contain this issue of COVID-19. And this brings us to a big conversation to now see how we can start talking about green recovery, sustainable integrated approach. And now we're also talking about the green economy, because this is the only way whereby we can start looking at how can we sustain the post-COVID, and how can we start looking at how can we make sure that every stakeholders are all involved in this conversation. Once again, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I will be moderating this session. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to see every of our guests, every of our attendees that are joining us. Before we go straight to the conversation today, This is the third week of this green webinar series. And we are looking at green finance, green bond, financing opportunities for the economy, and which is something that is the bedrock of every country in Africa. Because we are talking about the post-COVID, what are we building for the post-COVID? How are we looking at how we can get more a sustainable way of new businesses to come back, growing our business? We need to start talking about financing, because that's one of the key conversation that is going on today. As I said, this is the third week of this conversation. All the attendees, as you join this call, please mute your mic, mute your, don't put on your videos so that we can have a good strength of the network, so that we can also make sure that the sound is very, very good when our guests start talking. And that is what we are talking about today. Thank you very much. And I want to quickly go into the program properly. So I'm going to be calling on our keynote speaker from the Embassy of Nigeria, Sweden Embassy to Nigeria. I'll be calling on Anna, that is going to be speaking on behalf of the ambassador to Nigeria, to give us a very quick note, keynote on this conversation that we want to have today. And I want all the attendees to please pay attention to this conversation, because every bit of the line of conversation we're going to be having today is a learning to our development as people, as the nation, as country, as a continent. So I want to give the floor to Anne to give us his opening remark and the keynote speech. Thank you very much.
Hello and good day, everyone. My name is Anna Ras. I'm the Deputy Head of Mission at the Swedish Embassy here in Abuja. I'm very happy to be here today to deliver remarks on behalf of Ambassador Carl-Michael Grantz. The Embassy of Sweden is very, very proud to support the important work that you do, and we're glad to actively be part of these conversations. And especially this third edition of the webinar series organized by the 11-11-12 Foundation. I understand that the first edition focused on the environmental laws and policies. And the second one was a robust conversation on the power of technology as it relates to the environment, especially now in the face of COVID-19. It's important that we ensure that the COVID-19 recovery is based on a green transition, and the investments needed for the recovery will be an opportunity to reboot our economies in a more sustainable way to ensure employment, competitiveness, and export of sustainable, innovative solutions and products. No doubt, finance plays a critical role in our joint objective to achieve a transition to low carbon and resilient economies. Therefore, it's my pleasure to give this keynote address on today's webinar focused on green finance. In the green recovery efforts, it's crucial that we include approaches to how we can promote sustainable finance in order to give investors the incentive and opportunity to finance environmentally sustainable projects or assets, and how green bonds further can be developed and promoted internationally to support the green transition. Climate change, as we all know, poses substantial risks to agriculture, to health, water supplies, food production, nutrition, ecosystems, energy security, and infrastructure. Therefore, all sources of financing must take into consideration a successful transition to resilient growth. Sweden is the world's largest per capita donor to the climate funds. In 2018, Swedish public climate finance amounted to 6.2 billion Swedish krona, which is equal to almost $700 million, of which close to 70% has been channeled through our development agency, SIDA. And I'm sure that many of you know that a green bond is a type of bond in which the money raised is used to finance various kinds of environmental and climate initiatives. The investors in these bonds must be able to monitor what the money is linked to and what environmental and climate impact it achieves. This is very important. Barely a month ago, the Swedish National Debt Office announced that Sweden's first green bond raised 20 billion Swedish krona which is about 2.3
vers le
billion dollars.
constater le Suédois
Met strong
a
demand
fondé
with an order book exceeding 47 billion Swedish krona
en
in the
dépassant
diverse investor
47
base,
milliards de dollars.
investor categories. I also understand that Nigeria is now intending to develop her third green bond, aimed at raising 25 billion naira. This follows the first round of the green bond, amounting to about 10 billion naira, and the second amounting to 15 billion naira. But what's more important is how these financial resources can be easily accessed and how the intended projects are transparently executed. Sweden will continue to contribute to climate finance globally. And we plan to double our contribution to the Green Climate Fund from 4 billion Swedish krona to 8 billion. And our contributions to the Global Adaptation Fund and the Least Developed Countries Fund stand at 520 million Swedish krona between 2019 to 2022 per each year, I should say. To wrap up, science gives us 10 years to cut the world's emissions by half. Sweden is proud to contribute with policy, financing, and innovative technology to support the transition to climate-smart communities and ambitious implementation of the Paris Agreement. And here, international cooperation is key in solving the urgent situation caused by the pandemic, but also in contributing to security, sustainability, and welfare in the long term. Achieving climate neutrality is important to future-proof our societies and to strengthen our preparedness for future crises. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing and learning more as this conversation continues.
Yes, thank you very much. And that was very, short and very concise. Like, it was actually something that I'm sure a lot of people want to listen to and people want to hear from the Sweden embassy to Nigeria. And, you mentioned some key points, which I think is very, very interesting, that the Sweden embassy, Sweden government in particular, have been doing a lot of, giving a lot of support when it comes to the green bond. And I think from what you just also mentioned about, they are investing a lot in that aspect, shows to a lot of us, a lot of body or private or a lot of investors to know that what you people are doing is actually something that is giving hope to a lot of people that want to tap into those opportunities. And I think the future of green financing, the future of climate financing, will get more shape if a lot of people are coming on board to actually also invest more and put more strength or put more strategy into climate financing, because it's a big conversation that is going on, not only in Africa, but across the world. And I'm going to also be talking about a lot of the green bond processes that have been engaged as part of when it comes to Nigerian green bond issue. So thank you very much. And I wanted to ask you some key questions, but I think for the sake of our attendees that's on this call, I would quickly want to ask you a little bit of quick questions so that we can now go into our other speakers to also share their views and what they are also looking at when it comes to green financing, climate financing and stuff like that. As a country, let me say as a country now, and as a deputy high commission in the Sweden embassy in Nigeria, what can you give us a big example, or let me say a key example of what the embassy is actually doing in when it comes to combating climate change? What kind of financing are you people doing or investing into? Let us use Nigeria as an example. Can you, if you have any example of that, because this example can actually show to our attendees and the people watching us across the world that we are not only talking, but we are actually doing something that relates to implementation and also impacting people in the local sector. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I can just briefly say that here in Nigeria, one of our key priorities is to promote climate-friendly change and investments. We have several Swedish companies present here in Nigeria offering climate-friendly solutions and also in the digitalization sector, which is very important for sustainable development, I would say. And from the embassy side, we are very conscious to always promote the environment and sustainable change and climate-friendly solutions in everything that we do locally in the embassy, for instance, with waste management, but also in terms of increasing awareness about these issues in Nigerian society, cooperating with the local community. I can just mention, for instance, that for a couple of weeks, about a month ago, for the World Cleanup Day. A very concrete thing to do to increase awareness about these issues and how important our local
opportunity for both the young people and different sectors across the globe. And you've mentioned about your promotion around climate-friendly activities. You've also mentioned about investment opportunity. You've mentioned about digitalization. That's a big sector that you are also doing great, which I can say is very, very important. And with the urgency of waste management, that's another sector that I think your embassy is also looking to, and what you have been doing there is very, very important as well. And this shows to us that the numbers of awareness, increasing of awareness and advocacy in building the support for the climate financing is very, very key. And I'm very sure that our attendees are also listening and they are hearing from you. So let me quickly say this before we go into, so thank you very much, Anna. And I'm very sure you will still be on this call to listen to what our other speakers will be saying today and how they are also implementing activities and how they are looking at solution strategy for the continent as large. And also, let me quickly say that for our attendees that are joining us, please mute your mic and let your camera be off so that we can have good strength. And also want to say that if you have any question, you go down to the last bottom of the Zoom. You can drop your questions there. They will pick it up and we try as much as possible to send this conversation or this question to our speakers so that they can check and respond to that. Thank you very much. And thanks for what you all are doing in your own local entity. So very quick, so that we don't waste much time, I wanted to call on another speaker. I'll be calling on Maria Au. Maria is, from what I've known, what I've seen, she's an Uganda climate activist, and she's also an entrepreneur. And she's the founder of Better Living Initiative Global that has gone global, and a lot of young people are also part of this network. And is a not-for-profit that works to improve environmental conservation and have access to health and education through capacity building. She's also a climate finance expert. And I just want to listen to Maria to also share from her well of experience when it comes to climate financing, because a lot of conversation has been going on about the importance of climate financing, about what are the scope behind it. A lot of people are also talking about it globally, and how is this influencing the community? How is it influencing the people that actually need the support? And also, what are the opportunities there? What are the projects aligned with the green financing or the climate financing? We are pleased to have you, Maria. You have the floor. Thank you. please put on your mic and your camera.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Olumide, and thank you for inviting me, 1111 Foundation, to this webinar. I'm really delighted to be here with the amazing speakers. And yeah, I would like to just share with you a bit about my experience in the finance sector, in the green finance sector, so to speak, in climate change, and why I got involved in it. And the reason I got involved was because I felt that there wasn't enough being done, particularly for young people at the grassroots level, to help them scale up, but also innovate for green solutions. So before I moved to the States, I was working in Uganda, and I was working with a couple of other businesses that were looking to fundraise for investments, and they were doing amazing things. Like one of them was doing pellet production. So they were trying to move people in the villages from using coal and wood as firewood for cooking to using more choosing products that had a lower carbon footprint. But the problem was always they never had funding. No one wanted to provide funding for them. And if they were providing funding for them, it was always at a risk, or there was this huge criteria that they had to meet. So they would, even though they had an amazing product, they just did not have the backing to be able to scale that product. And that's something that I always wondered, how is it that even when young people in developing countries are doing their part, which is they're innovating and they're showing their commitment, there is still, like, no one is really backing them or supporting them? And the answer to that could be that sometimes people are afraid of the risk of young people, because they ask themselves, are these young people going to stick through it, or are they going to, let's say, run for it 2 to 3 years, and then after that they'll just go into something new? So there's that hurdle to overcome. But then there's also the hurdle that maybe I feel like sometimes investment
mission quelquefois et ils ne comprennent pas, ils ne comprennent pas vraiment comment fonctionne les finances et l'investissement écologique. Parce que souvent du temps, par exemple, une entreprise vend une entreprise qui favorise l'écologie. Période à avoir des passions de ce genre.
Really needs to be fostered. And so I got into the climate change space about 2 years ago because I wanted to see how I, as a young person, can contribute to solving this problem and this gap that we as young people face. And then I got involved with Yango and the Climate Finance Working Group. And I realized, oh my God, there's still so much that needs to be done, because even if we have the target, which is the $100 billion target that the Green Climate Fund is trying to work towards getting, we still haven't answered the question of, okay, but what about young people? How are they going to benefit from this? And I can share more about what we have decided or what we're planning to do in the coming months and for next year. But basically that was the reason why I got involved in the climate change space, because I really wanted to see how we as young people can be a part of the conversation, not just as tokens, but as people who bring value and who can help with achieving this, the 2050 net zero emissions target. And with that, I will hand over to you, Olumide.
Wow, 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 wow. That is so interesting. Thank you very much, Maria. I think your conversation is now focusing directly towards young people and the zeal for you to starts looking at climate financing as a low conversation that has been in the space for a couple of 2-3 years, is very interesting because young people are also taking action now to see how they can tap into climate financing. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking about not only running activities, but tapping into form of entrepreneur businesses, because this is what we need to start looking at. We should start looking at climate financing or climate change issue as an investment opportunity for young people as well. And I think it's very interesting that your network have been focusing on this, and you have been doing a fantastic work when it comes to strategizing on issue on climate financing. And also what you've just mentioned about your upcoming activities and upcoming plan. It's very good for you to also share with our attendees and our guests and everybody that is also on this call as time goes on, maybe through the 1111 Foundation. That would be very, very important. And you also stress the importance of climate financing because of your experience working back in Uganda and seeing yourself in another country now. And comparing those two things is very, very important. And I think from your statement, climate financing is something that we young people need to understand and see how we can tap into it, not only for the other sector, but for the young people sector as well. Thank you very much. I'll be coming back to you with sort of questions before we close, but let me quickly go to one of our speaker here today, a passionate speaker as well, Idris Sambataya. And it's very interesting that we're also having him today on this call. I think I did a little bit of research about him, and I've been able to see that he has been doing a lot of stops across the value chain. He's a service development enthusiast, and he's an entrepreneur. He has been doing a lot of things when it comes to green businesses, and he has focused a lot of his activities on how we can improve and change the narrative of businesses as well. I'm very happy to have him and to also be one of our speakers here today. And I will also want to make sure that he gives us as much as possible details on the concepts of climate financing. And he can also share with us how organizations can actually adopt this green financing in different sectors. I want him to give us a broad perspective and share his own view coming from his own country as an entrepreneur, and how can we continue to see how to tap into this, and most especially tell us a little bit about the challenges of people that want to go into green businesses, green enterprise, and so on. And you can also give us a little bit of many organizations and people are now talking about the blue economy that also help to support the climate change adaptation and mitigation. So we want to hear from your experience. We want to hear from what you're actually doing and how you are infusing the issue of the concept of climate financing into your activities as an entrepreneur. Thank you very much. You have the floor. Sir, please put on your mic and your camera so that we can see you. Thank you.
All right. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you very well.
Perfect. I hope I can share my screen. Let me share my screen briefly. Okay, so I'll just use this to share a bit. So first of all, my name's Eddie Sambataya. I'm the managing director of Finding XY. Finding XY is a management firm, mainly providing three kinds of services. That is business development services, investment, and consulting. And thank you so much for having me and allowing me to join this conversation. So I was specifically invited here to share about one of our programs called the Uganda Green Enterprise Finance Accelerator. This is a program that is fully funded by the European Union delegation to Uganda and is being implemented by Delphi, one of our partners based in Germany, and Finding XY, where I'm the founder and managing director. So I'll, first of all, before I run you through what I have here, which will also be brief, I just wanted to answer to the question of what is green finance. So green finance, these are mechanisms that are designed to support green initiatives. Now, we've already had different examples that have been given about green bonds, but there are also various mechanisms that have been created to support what we also call green SMEs. So in Uganda, we have designed this particular program called the Uganda Green Enterprise Finance Accelerator to build a bridge or to meet the gap between financial institutions and what we call green SMEs. So I'll quickly define what a green SME is. A green SME is one that runs a business along what we call the triple bottom line. That is economic, social, and environmental impacts. So these businesses design their business models not only to be profitable, but to also create impact in their communities. Such examples of impacts can be reducing deforestation, creating jobs, ensuring there is proper land usage, ensuring or improving the health of people. So anything that is making a positive contribution, whether this is socially, or economically, or environmentally, we clearly define for us as a green initiative. So we launched this program in March this year, just before COVID took over the world, COVID-19 took over the world, and we have made a lot of progress. How we have designed this program is we did a scoping exercise last year to find out what are the challenges facing green SMEs or SMEs in general, especially in Uganda. So we found out what this. I'll quickly highlight those. And then we found out, we asked ourselves, why are banking institutions or bank institutions unable to provide loans to green SMEs? So we spoke to a number of banks to find out what are their challenges when they want to lend money to green enterprises. So we have designed this facility to enable green SMEs be able to borrow money from commercial banks. And we are doing this by, first of all, taking the SMEs through what a catalyzer program where we give them business development support for 6 months, and then present this pipeline of SMEs to the commercial banks to give them financing. Now, when the banks give them the money, say if the bank gives an SME up to $100,000, we discount this loan by up to 25%, so that the SME only pays back $75,000. We believe that this immediately knocks out some of the challenges faced by these SMEs, like things like collateral, things like high interest that they face that make them unable to pay these banks. So like I highlighted earlier, this program is fully funded by the European Union. It's implemented by one of our partners called Adelphi and Finding XY. Our experience has shown, and as it has already been proven in this meeting, is that there is a lot of financing around climate change and issues to do with environmental conservation and encouraging more circular economies. There's a lot of finance in that area, but the challenge has always been what mechanisms can be deployed to enable especially the SMEs, who are the biggest employers in any economy, to be able to access this kind of financing and also align their business models to be impact driven. In other words, big green businesses. So there are a lot of factors that we have taken into consideration when we were designing this facility. We made sure that we are aligning the facility to our own country's green growth strategy. Most countries were required by when they signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals, they had to develop green strategies highlighting how they were going to get onto a path of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So we made sure the program also aligns to that. So these are the challenges that we found out while speaking to the different SMEs, both from the banks and the SMEs. So the SMEs highlighted challenges that, like the lack of the high transactional costs, low deposits and savings from SMEs. These are challenges from the banks, resilience to macroeconomic events. Most SMEs, for example, during COVID-19 had to close down or were unable to continue operating because of the changes they were facing due to strenuous economies. Other challenges that were highlighted from the SMEs were, they mentioned things, a lack of collateral, the lifespan of loans that are given to them by the banks are very short, the lack of proper leadership in their businesses, inconsistent business models. Today you are doing a business in probably you are focusing on transport, and the next day you want to cut this down a bit and focus more on distributing because you think it will help you make a better income. So the banks didn't find a very convincing case with SMEs because of the low capacity or poor capacity within their operation to be able to meet their banking criteria. But the SMEs also, on the other hand, pointed out to challenges to the banks themselves, why they work with them, the high interest rates, the high collateral requirements, the failure to understand their business models. Most of the banks understand business models from these green SMEs. So we designed this facility to speak to these to speak to the challenges, and on one hand help SMEs to understand what it takes to get money from financial institutions, and also help financial institutions design green financing mechanisms, like designing green loans that can be issued to these green SMEs. And we have already partnered or spoken to about 6 banks in the country. One has already signed up already to work with us to facilitate such loans. So in a nutshell, that's what the program that that we have designed. So you asked me to share a bit more about how organizations can adopt greening. There are different mechanisms that can be adopted around green financing. You can either use what was mentioned earlier, green bonds. You can either use green loans, or you can use financing from impact-oriented investors. Our preferred mechanism has been loans, because majority of SMEs able to access loans as compared to equity investment. Usually the entities that are able to access equity investments are those that are really bigger in size, let alone venture capital. But we speak about equity investment looking to scale. These are organizations that are looking for financing of $500,000 and above. We didn't want to look at such a small segment. We wanted to look at something that affects most SMEs, and we believe these were loans. So we focus on loans as a tool to green financing. So how organizations can adopt? Number one, organizations need to understand what green financing is, and partly that means you coming up with a theory of change where you design the objectives of your organization around the triple bottom line. For example, you being able to first of all identify the impact that you want to create and how you are going to monitor this impact. And as I already mentioned earlier, this impact can be impact, it can be economic impact, it can be environmental impact. And there are different ways or different things that you can look at in there to see what contribution your organization makes. Number one, in form of impact, and secondly, to the sustainable development goals. So that is one of the things that organizations need to do, but that is mainly the support, the ecosystem developers, or like development partners, and also the SMEs. On the side of financing, there is a great need for financial institutions to understand green SMEs and how they operate, that they are different from a typical mainstream business where the rule of thumb is we have to make a profit come what may. With financial institutions need to understand that the objective of green enterprises or green SMEs is really number one, to make impact, to create impact, and also to make a profit. So if you're going to finance such entities, that is something you need to understand and then embed it in your criteria or KYC criteria that you have designed on how you can finance them and what requirements you will need from such SMEs. And then you mentioned the challenges of green businesses. I've already mentioned those. The challenges of green businesses are the same challenges that are really affecting businesses in all African countries. It doesn't matter wherever you go. I happen to speak to entrepreneurs from different African countries. It doesn't matter where you go. The challenges are always the same. Number one of those challenges for our SMEs is the lack of proper organization in your SMEs. That is the lack of governance, the lack of financial documents, you having audited financial documents, the lack of consistent business models, the lack of systems in your own business. Do you have financial systems that you need to track your incomes and expenses? Do you have the right staff in the right positions? Do you have governance? If you own a business, just because a business, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be supervised. You should have a board. You should have advisors that work with you in form of governance to help direct you to make sure that you are using the finances that you're making from the business correctly and you're applying them in the right way. The lack of collaboration in our environment, most SMEs don't collaborate because they are small. You find that it's not uncommon to find 10 businesses, for example, along a street operating in the same vicinity, competing with one another, targeting the same customers. It doesn't make sense. SMEs need things like collaboration, not just locally, but regionally. That is something that we have explored as Finding XY. How can we work with our partners? How can we work with regional partners so that we don't replicate the same things? And we explore the synergies that we have with the different players. So that bottom line for that is so that we can provide quality services that our customers will want, our clients will want, and that our partners will also appreciate. So those are some of the challenges that I can quickly point to that are affecting some of our local businesses. Thank you.
Wow. I wish and I could love for us to continue, because this is now getting a little bit of technical and a little bit of views that we are sharing. I'm very happy because you've been able to give us different dimension of mechanisms that we can start looking at. And I'm also happy because of our attendees on this call. They've been able to gain one or two experience from what you've said. As an SME and as an entrepreneur, there are things that we need to start looking at when it comes to financing. Like I also mentioned again,
comment nous pouvons tourner les investissements vers le financement vert. Merci beaucoup.
Be part of this conversation as well. The theory, the impact they are creating in the organization. You also mentioned about governance, because this is very key in building that kind of empire as an entrepreneur. You need to see how you can guide and make that work for your businesses. And you also mentioned about the economic and environmental factors of what we need to also see when it comes to green financing and green climate financing, which is very, very key. And thanks also for giving us the view from Uganda, from where you come from, because it's also something that can be replicated in different kind of countries across Africa. And we are, as an SME, as an entrepreneur, can start looking at how we can also build a sustainable business that can employ more people, that we now start looking at the mechanism that we need to put in check so that attracting funding for climate adaptation and mitigation will be in a proper manner. So thank you very much. And I really appreciate if you are still going to be on the call, sir, because for me, I think you've actually you've answered a lot of questions in your presentation that you've done today. And I'm very sure that all the attendees are also listening, and I'm sure they will also be part of the conversation as we are going on. Thank you very much. And I will quickly want to say again, if you are joining for the first time since we start this call, this is the third week of our conversation on climate finance that is organized by 11-11-12 Foundation. Is a organization that have been doing fantastic work when it comes to engagement, creating platform for different young people across Africa and across the world. Thank you very much for what you have been doing. And I will also be calling on our next guest. And I'm also sure that everybody is ready to listen to him, because he's going to be giving us another view, another perspective of what we want to also talk about today. His name is Dr. Innocent Ona. He's going to be giving us his own view from the banking sector. I remember some couple of years back when Nigeria started the green bond issue. And there's a conversation about, we want to also see how we can tap into this opportunity. A lot of people started signing up for the green bond, talking about it and how this can influence more businesses, how this can help more business to sustain, and how this issue can help more business to start looking at the green side of opportunities when we talk about green jobs for a country or for an entity. And so he's going to be telling us a little bit to describe some typical characteristics of green finance approach, and what is the bank doing as well, and what are they also looking at in collaborating and in investing into more entrepreneurs across the value chain. And also, what is the industry saying now? What is the level, or what is the situation of climate financing presently? We also want to know about that. And sir, you can also share with us what you have been doing when it comes to green bond, climate financing, so that our attendees can also have more experience and some technical know-how to also tap into this opportunity. Thank you very much. And I'm giving you this floor to also share with us these opportunities. Thank you, sir. We also need you to put on your video so that we can see you.
Thank you, Olumide. And thank you, everyone. And good morning. My name is Innocent Ona from the African Development Bank. I don't know if everyone can see my slides. Olumide, can you see my slides? I'm sharing.
Yes, your slide is very clear. Very, very clear.
All right, thank you. So it's a great opportunity for 11-11-12 Foundation to invite the African Development Bank to share perspectives about green bond.
Doctor, please, maybe in 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. Just to
green bond financing opportunities. So in order to give a very good perspective to this topic, I kind of outlined 5 areas: a situational analysis, Nigeria country systems, what the bank is doing, some investment and risk management instruments, and also some key messages. So, I mean, it's clear, everyone understands what some of the impact that climate change is having, because that is the crux of climate financing and green financing in the first place. It's about managing climate risk and also ensuring sustainable development. So some of the country systems in Nigeria, as you may find, is that to also look at what the country is doing. For any investor, for any bank, for any individual to be interested in green financing, it's important to see what the country is doing. Through the Paris Climate Change Agreement and Nigeria's nationally determined contributions, there are some key commitments that the government of Nigeria have already set for themselves to reduce 20% conditional and 45% 20% unconditional, sorry, this is a mistake, and then 45% conditional, which means the country have decided that, without international support, it was going to reduce emissions by 20%, but with international support, emissions was going to be reduced by 45%. And this commitment provides a basis for climate actions, for SMEs, for individuals, for institutions to align their activities, their projects, and their businesses towards a low carbon development pathway. The government has also mentioned some key measures along its NDCs, which includes ending gas flaring, solar PVs, energy efficiency, transport shift from car to buses, improving the electricity grid, and also climate smart agriculture. The Nigeria Green Bond is also an intervention by the country. Previous speakers, including from the Swedish Embassy, has already mentioned about Nigeria getting its third green bond to fund several eco-friendly projects. And, I understand that these projects are targeted at renewable energy projects, energy efficiency projects, and also other projects that are key to achieving the NDCs and sustainable development and the UN SDGs. So now, what's the bank doing? The bank has a 10-year strategy running 2013 to 2022 that aims to transition African economies to be inclusive of green growth. So when we talk of green financing, there must be a strategic policy, both as a bank and also as a country. I've mentioned that of the Nigeria country as the NDC process. Within the bank, we have a strategic 10-year strategy that wants to ensure that green growth is mainstream in our operations. We also have a climate change action plan, 2016 to 2020. This is being reviewed. This also provided guidelines for managing climate risk, supporting NDCs in our regional member countries, and also which also includes green growth strategies. We also have an Africa Green Growth Index, because without measuring what we are doing in the first place, it's going to be very difficult to get projects to readiness and to bankability. So there's need for an index to measure what we are doing so as to ensure that the right green finances are allocated to the right SME or to the right individual or to the right business. We're also promoting circular economy principles as a key green growth strategy for the bank's operation in Africa. Then particularly in Nigeria, we have a country strategy program that runs between 2020 to 2024. This country strategy program has committed to support infrastructural development in Nigeria and also to promote social inclusivity, including building human capital and also supporting agribusiness. So all of these areas, both at the bank level and at the country strategy level, we ensure that we are applying climate change adaptation principles, mitigation principles. We are ensuring that we are able to attract climate finance for our projects. We are also building capacity of our regional member countries to be able to access climate finance or green finance, as we may call it. And then most recently, we are working on a Paris alignment methodology for operationalizing the Paris Agreement. This will also introduce a new climate change and green growth policy framework that will guide the operations of the bank in climate change and green growth from 2021 to 2025. So within the last 10 years, the bank has done tremendously well in terms of attracting climate finance across Africa. And this is an example. Within 2016 to 2019, the bank has substantially increased its climate finance in economic infrastructure, for example, from $525 million in 2016 to over $1 billion in 2019. If you look at the energy and power sector. The same thing goes for the transport sector and water supply and sanitation sector. So increasingly on a year by year, we are increasing our share of climate finance in our project financing, which includes green financing as well. And then we are ensuring that, in fact, the bank has set a target of achieving 40% of investments, as climate finance by 2020. So at the end of this year, we'll be able to tell the whole world how much we've been able to deliver on that commitment. So how is the bank scaling up? Because the truth is, climate finance is already going on at different parts of the world, including in Africa. But for us to scale up, we believe that the SMEs are a target opportunity. So through the bank's Africa Private Sector Assistance, that has a goal of promoting private sector participation in the NDC implementation in green investments in Africa, we are piloting this initiative to scale up climate smart investment, how SMEs, for example, can achieve bankability in the identification of their projects and also in getting those projects ready for climate financing or for green financing. So this project is going on in Egypt, Morocco, Mozambique, Angola, South Africa, and in Nigeria. It has two key components. One will help to identify NDC investment opportunities, which a lot of people still do not really know. And then in this, we hope that we'll be able to build capacity through workshops and also mobilize finance for the private sector participants. Component 2 involves development of climate technology and innovation by SMEs, where we try to ensure that whatever intervention we are doing within the SMEs and the private sector space, we're able to teach and also build their capacity on how to screen their projects for climate vulnerability and also for opportunities, how they can estimate greenhouse gas accounting for their projects, and how they can mainstream, for financial institutions, for example, how they can mainstream climate change in lines of credits, and most importantly, how green jobs can be tracked. Because at the end of the day, we should be able to show that this X amount of green finance is able to create X amount of green jobs. So beyond climate financing, we also have other initiatives by the African Development Bank, including a Circular Economy Alliance, a Korea-Africa facility on circular economy, and we also have a Nigeria Circular Economy Working Group. The Africa Circular Economy Alliance, for example, is a platform of members that will help to, promote or support the transition of our regional member countries from linear to circular economy. So circular economy is a key area that the bank is supporting because of its green growth potentials. It's just a way of moving away from the linear way of using and disposing things to a more value addition, extending shelf life of products, and also through waste management as one key area that circular economy tries to address. So this is the most important part of my presentation, because in terms of helping businesses build readiness for bankable green financing, the African Development Bank, will promote, many aspects, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm presenting on 9 of them. Your project or your SME must be able to reduce vulnerability to climate change, because this is the baseline situation. How are we able to improve our capacity to adapt to climate change, for example? That's number 2. You should be able to increase adaptive capacity. You should be able to also increase mitigative capacity to contribute to the Paris Agreement and your country nationally determined contributions. You should be able to include green growth measures, such as circularity, for example. You should be able to adopt MRV system, which means you should be able to have data. Your data should be transparently measured, recorded, and be able to be accessible by anyone who is willing to give you green financing. And then you should also try to identify other investment instruments for co-financing, because these days people are much more willing to give you money if you already have another source of investment. They are more willing to co-finance when you already have one. And then you should be able to access climate finance. Of course, if you do from steps 1 to 6, step 7 becomes automatic, because you already have all the tools, you already have all the data to sell your business idea, to build it up to bankability for anybody to put climate finance or green finance. And then, just like my Ugandan colleague said, there's the triple bottom line that involves risk management. Environmental and social safeguards measures need to be built into your project. You must remember gender inclusion, and then you must ensure that what you'll be producing at the day is jobs for the youth and possibly green jobs. And then if your business is between the medium to large scale type, you must be able to promote transfer and adoption of climate change or green technologies. So these are some of the bank's investment and risk management instruments. As the diagram shows, we have private sector operations, which are non-sovereign. We have sovereign operations, which are more of loans to countries. We have a combination of equity, debt, and guarantees. Some come in the form of concessional loans, some come in the form of non-concessional loans. We also work with a lot of international climate change financing organizations like the GCF, the CIF, CEFA, AWF. All of these are targeted towards ensuring that we're able to mobilize sufficient climate and green financing for the African continent. So these are two key examples of some projects that the bank has financed. These are large-scale projects in Zambia and in the DRC. You can see that we're able to measure direct beneficiaries in form of green jobs, and then we're able to state exactly how much of CO2 emissions this project would avoid or abate. And these are some of the key areas that our listeners should pay attention at. For you to be able to develop a project to bankability, you must be able to show some of these variables. So lastly, there are some areas that requires improvement. This includes measuring, recording and verification tools, MRV tools, and also metrics. We should be able to develop metrics for ourselves that we can benchmark how we carry out green financing, how we measure our green jobs. Capacity building, of course, we all know that human resources is required for this to happen. Our country systems need to be strengthened. We don't have, for example, in Nigeria, a climate change law, and this would have really helped implementation of the NDCs. COVID-19 have shown us the importance of the nexus between climate change and the health system. This is an area that requires improvement for green financing as well. Circular economy is a key area that the bank is already initiating, but we know for sure that requires improvement in form of country systems, policies as well. And also we need to pay some attention on nature-based solutions, and most of all, internal and external collaborations like the meeting we're having right now. So in conclusion, 3 key messages from the African Development Bank. Climate change represents a $3 trillion investment opportunity for Africa by 2030. We are all actors in the transition to a green economy. And then to access green finance, we must align actions closely and strategically with specific country systems and green criteria. And then to build back better post-COVID-19, we need increased coordination and collaboration towards green economy. And then we are all partners in this. And this will be the 3 key messages from the African Development Bank. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Wow. This is so interesting. Thank you so much, Doctor. Before I forget, let me say, I'm so proud to be an Atlas Corp alumni as well. I was just trying to check your little profile to see that you have really been doing great work and fantastic work. And this presentation have shown us stages of how we can actually look into how we can get involved in green financing and climate financing. You make some key points, which I think everybody on this call needs to pay more attention. When you were showing us the climate finance at the graph it showed to us, it's showing to us that the African Development Bank is actually looking at how we can build back actually tap into the mention about the alignment of action when you talk about building readiness for bankable green financing. For me, I think this is a message to all of us on this call, because many of us have been having different strategies, different solutions that are looking for a way to actually tap into all these opportunities. But you talk about we should start looking at reducing vulnerability. You talk about the things I think all of us on this call need to start looking at, because it's going to help us a lot. And I love the part of the risk management, you know, how we can develop a risk management instrument for all of us as an entity, as young people that are on this call. Is something that we need to start looking at. And before I close, your comment about what they call it, the NDC as well. I think the NDC is like one of the instruments that is very, very key for all of us, not only Nigeria, across Africa, because our NDC need to help us to build back better as part of your key messages. The last one that you talk about, to build back better post-COVID-19, there's a need for increased coordination and collaboration on green economy. And I think that will also help us to start looking at green jobs. We also help us to start looking at how can you, other people will be looking at the opportunity of tapping into green financing. And I think, let me first of all appreciate African Development Bank for this great initiative, and most especially for the collaboration with other financing institutes that you are working along with to make sure that all this opportunity gets to people that actually need it. And the my conclusion part of before we move to another session is that we also want to see more of, I know you people are doing a lot of climate smart programs, and how we can see young people tap into this grant as well, because our former speaker, the last speaker that spoke from Uganda, also talk about the access to financing for businesses, and he also bring the perspective of the SMEs, which we are not talking about charity as well. We are talking about investment, and how can you turn that investment to opportunities for other institution or other people are surrounding your entity, and how you can build more job opportunities. And I think that's one of the things that we are also looking at. In the coming decades. And somebody was also asking about whether Dr. Honor can please share his slide with them. Maybe you can break the slide into key points that can resonate to our understanding, to understand the issue of climate finance and green financing as well. Another thing again, I think that's the only question we have, but I would like to make this more, not only me doing the talking, I want to hear from our attendees. If you know you have a question you want to ask, please kindly raise up your hand and I will call you, and please go straight to the question. No other, just introduce yourself, where you are calling from, your country, what you do, and straight to your question, so that our guest speaker can be able to attend to your question very fast, so that we can leave this call as soon as possible. So if you have a question, please let me know. But I have a quick question to ask the guest, if we don't have a question from our attendees for now. I'm just waiting for 1 or 2, let me say 30 seconds to hear from us. If you have any quick question you want to ask, from what you've listened to and what you've heard now, what is that quick question? Before I go back to our guests and give them some key questions, then they will respond to us. Okay, so as I'm looking at, nobody's raising, maybe everybody's like very clear about what we have been saying, but for me, I will quickly run to Maria. Please, if you're on this call, I believe this question is also going to resonate with some of the attendees. My quick question is, as a climate change activist and as a climate finance expert, what is going to be your advice for most especially SMEs, people that are going into businesses and are looking forward to, learn on how to work with all these mechanisms, because tapping into this opportunity takes time and takes a lot of knowledge. What advice do you think you want to give to young people from your own point of view and the kind of sectors you work? What is the advice you want to give to young people that are actually running a small project and are looking to tap and scale it up? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the advice I would give is like, don't give up, be consistent and be persistent with what you're trying to do, and the impact you're trying to bring with your business. I also wanted to take the opportunity to say that we are working on a fund which will be called the Global Youth Climate Action Fund. And with this fund, we're hoping to invest in youth-led climate action projects and innovations around the world. And hopefully we'll be releasing it in bits throughout the course of the few months left, and then launching it next year. So that's a whole other conversation for another time. But for young people, I think that they shouldn't give up, and they should also network. Dr. Sembatia mentioned something about competition, and I think that one of the things that young people maybe do, which might how should I say, it won't benefit them if they're always competing against each other instead of trying to collaborate with each other. I think we should start thinking about how can we collaborate, what's my strength and what's my competitor's strength, and how can we work together to both get a profit but also leave an impact where we're working. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Maria. And I'm very sure our listeners, our attendees are actually getting to hear from you your question. But before you go, please kindly, I would like to quickly ask this one before I move to Dr. Innocent. Please, can you quickly share with us, what activities fall within the scope of green financing? What activities do you think, because you just mentioned something about future opportunities for climate projects. You talk about the Global Youth Climate Fund that will be coming up. So what kind of activities fall within this scope of this scope of green financing, so that a lot of people that will be able to tap into this opportunity can prepare ahead? And if we have anybody on this call that we also want to actually tap into this opportunity, can also prepare. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so what we'll be looking at is projects and innovations that are focused on climate action. So it could be anything to do with smart agriculture, renewable energy, or innovations that help to lower carbon emissions in communities. And the goal really is, because the $100 million target, we are setting a $100 million target for young people. So we 10% of that. And the reason we're doing that is because when we were at the COP last year in Spain, and we were speaking with the GCF, and we're like, okay, yes, but we know you're doing all this and you're working with MDBs and this and that, but what about young people? Why hasn't there been some sort of innovation or some sort of pledge for young people, because they're the ones who are leading the action? What can be done? So we briefly spoke to them about doing this, and they kind of gave us a green light to do it, but we had to figure out like how we would bring it to life. So I've been working with a couple of other young people on it, and that's why I said we'll be releasing it in phases, because we've been doing consultations with finance experts in this field, people who have been working with the World Bank here in the States, and then also in Europe and Africa. So that's why it's taking a bit of time, but it will, the way that we will be, so the different instruments we'll be using will be debt, mezzanine finance, grants for early stage investments, and equity as well, because from our experience, we've seen that some young people are willing to give up equity shareholding in their company for financing, especially those who want to have strategic advisors on their board, they're willing to give up some form of equity. So that is why we are also incorporating that. And I'm definitely willing to share more information as the project and the concept unfolds, and hopefully we'll be able to launch the fund early next year in January.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will quickly, before I go to Dr. Innocent, I would like to ask a quick question to the Embassy of Sweden to Nigeria. Moving forward and looking at the way the conversation has been going on and the way everybody is now talking about climate financing, and what are the key barriers to green financing become more widespread? Because a lot of things, what do you think are the barriers facing green financing presently? As your experience you've seen in Nigeria, let us know that. Thank you. We have some questions for you, but let me quickly finish with Maria so that you can be able to, finalize our question with you. Maria, please, you about smart agriculture. You mentioned something about smart agriculture. Please, Maria, can you please explain or expatiate more on that? Because when we say smart agriculture, people want to know the form of kind of agriculture you are talking about and how it's relating to your opportunity on the climate.
For example, if you went to rural communities and you see the way that some of them do their farming, you realize that they could do it better with technologies that are efficient, like water efficient. So it's harnessing technologies to reduce on waste, but also increase on efficiency and production. So you would talk about things like irrigation, and then also the way that they plow their crops, and what is the impact that it has on the environment. So it's more about like incorporating the circular economy in it, but also using or harnessing technologies that will increase efficiency and productivity and lower carbon emissions.
Thank you very much, Maria. I'm very sure the person that asked this quick question has been able to listen to your explanation. I've gotten so much from what you've said. Yeah, so thank you very much. A quick one now. I want to go to Doctor. Doctor have given us a very fantastic presentation, and I think we want to also hear from Doctor. Some words. Can you please, Doctor, this is a very quick question about blue economy and the 2030 agenda for development. What are the risks and uncertainties surrounding future development, and how can we address these issues? That is one. Secondly, which industry sectors or which sectors do you think are associated with the green finance? And so those are the key questions. And the last one, so that you can answer everything at once. What are the main difference between sustainable finance and green finance? Thank you, sir. Now your mic is mute. You can unmute your mic.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your interesting questions. Well, can you repeat your second question? Did you say what sectors are more connected to green finance?
Do you think are associated with green finance?
Okay. So I'll start with the first one. That what are the risks of the ongoing government development plans for green financing? Is that your first question?
Okay, so the first question is about, I was talking about blue economy and the 2030 agenda for development. So what are the risks and uncertainties surrounding these future developments? And how can we address these issues?
Oh, okay, thank you. So for the first question, when you speak about the blue economy, it becomes, you know, I have to look at it like a pie chart. You know, a pie chart where we'll have the economy and we'll have different sectors that comprises the economy. What roles are these sectors playing in terms of impacting or accelerating climate change? And then what roles are we playing to mitigate some of these climate change actions? So if you say what risk, I would say the risk for blue economy also includes climate change risk. It also includes financing the blue economy. These are also risks. And you also partly answered the question by mentioning Nigeria's development plans. Sometimes the best way to mitigate some of these risks, not only on blue economy, but also on bioeconomy, on green economy, is to use certain sustainability principles that will be able to, first of all, enshrine proper management of this risk in our policies, relevant laws, activities, or practice. But of course, it starts from the policy, because legislation is one key area that is difficult to achieve. But policy, we can set policy objectives around the blue economy that can take care of the climate change risk, some of the financial risks that are required to be able to sustainably drive a blue economy, for example. The blue economy these days is usually attached to the water economy, so some people say. For example, the shipping industry, the fishery industry, and aquaculture. These areas are highly vulnerable to climate change because of increasing sea level rise and also drought in some areas. The Lake Chad, for example, is drying up faster than we can imagine. So you can imagine the blue economy of the Lake Chad and also the region around Lake Chad, including livelihoods of the community around the Lake Chad. Climate change is impacting the blue economy of the Lake Chad, for example. The people of the Lake Chad are having insecurity issues. So these are also security risks, also forms part of the areas that need to be addressed. And the livelihoods of those people in terms of their social well-being, most of them are dependent on agriculture. They can no more fish, they can no more fetch water from the Lake Chad. So how do we, for example, address some of these risks? Of course, the best way is to design financial incentives for people, for targeted communities around blue economy and key stakeholders. The people in the shipping industry, how do we get them involved in our green economy discussion such that they can have shipping lines, so that they can have shipping lines that are more less carbon intensive? For the Lake Chad example, how do we engage the communities and increase their resilience to climate change, so that despite the fact that drought is going on, what other alternatives can they do in that area to be able to sustain their livelihood rather than depending on the blue economy around the Lake Chad? So these are key examples of how this risk can be mitigated. It is best if they are enshrined in country development plans. For example, in Nigeria is currently designing a medium-term national development plan and also an agenda 2050. Ordinarily, the bank expects the country to be able to, at this point, begin to develop the strategy and the plan that will also imbibe how the blue economy can play a key role in economic development, and also how this can be done using circular economy principles, because circularity can be applied across board, across all sectors, the blue, the green, the bioeconomy as well. To your second question on what sectors are most associated to green financing, I would say all the sectors, but in order to give us a direction, I would say we should use the NDC sectors. What are the key NDC sectors? The key NDC sectors are the agricultural sector, where the government of Nigeria, for example, have made commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and also increase resilience to climate change adaptation through climate smart agriculture. So the agricultural sector is the key sector. For another case for Nigeria is the oil and gas sector. How do we move the oil and gas sector to a more climate friendly sector? It's difficult to say Nigeria should stop exploring oil and gas, But what we could push is an agenda that reduces, the focus on oil and gas. There are other competing sectors that could also provide revenue for government. So the other key sectors in the NDC also include the transport sector, for example. So if you ask me from a professional point of view, all sectors are linked to green economy, as long as you can define the aspect of that sector that you intend to apply green economic principles to achieve the metrics and data required for green finance. The difference between sustainable finance and green finance, I think this is a matter of semantics. You could have sustainable finance in a non-green area. For example, the oil and gas sector. It is widely said that the oil and gas sector is not a green sector. But you can also achieve sustainable finance in the oil and gas sector without necessarily going green. For example, converting flared gas into clean natural gas, for example, might not be necessarily green because you are still using fossil fuel, but then you can do it in a more sustainable way because flared gas increases the amount of potent gas that contributes directly to climate change. But whereas avoiding that amount of gas, into the atmosphere is a way of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. For those that do not believe that oil and gas is still a green sector, it could be a sustainable way of managing the oil and gas sector that can attract sustainable finance. So it depends on how you look at it and how you define it from the beginning of your intervention or your query. If from the beginning you want to look at it from a point believe that if you're able to go green, eventually you'll be able to attain sustainable development and also sustainable financing. Thank you.
Hello, doctor, are you done? Hello.
I think my bandwidth is low, so yeah. But I hope my responses was clear enough.
Yes, it was very, very clear. So thank you very much, sir. That was very, very educative, and we were able to, for me personally, and I'm sure our attendees are also gaining more from what you just explained. And thanks for referring to some actions and process of what Nigerian government is also doing to help the industry when it comes to the climate change issue. So thank you very much, sir. And I'm very sure that a lot of people stay here sending questions. I want to quickly ask this question before we go, so that we'll be able to, because this is the Q&A session, and so that we can, any of our guests can also respond to this. Agriculture is an industry that can help Africa to, address problem of joblessness and also poverty, but it's still done crudely. How can a typical African farmer benefit from green financing, especially if smart agriculture is being practiced? The person is referencing this to food processing. So I want to know who can actually answer this question, whether it's going to be to Maria or to Doctor.
I can help. I can take a first crack.
Okay, sir.
So the point here is there is the role indigenous knowledge play in all of this. If you look at how agronomy, the word agronomy, came from a Greek word, that goes so many centuries. So these local farmers are not illiterate farmers. I don't want to use the word illiterate. They understand these things, for example. That's why every farmer that tries to grow his crop is always targeted at increasing yield, increasing productivity, and also getting farm inputs. From the point of view of these three areas, they're already imbibing sustainability in their practices. So there's a key role for extension agents to be able to reach out to these smallholder farmers, try to enlighten them and extend some of this knowledge about best practices in smart agriculture, for example, letting them know that, because some of them are already practicing this thing in their indigenous way, but they do not know how to collect this data and information that the African Development Bank, for example, might be interested in. Because we need to see numbers, we need to be able to verify that you're actually practicing or intend to practice this way before we can channel financing in forms of green or climate financing. So the extension agents have a great role to play. If you ask me, I want to encourage all the youths, to make themselves available as extension agents, because that is also an area that requires a lot of capacity building, and through different forms, training of trainers, they can extend this training to the local farmers, and local farmers can now better appreciate and be able to now collectively generate the information they require to develop their projects to bankability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm very sure the person that asked the question that actually gets more on that. Doctor, I still have one question for you here, which I think but you've not answered it. So the person's question is directed to you. He said, my question directed towards green finance for those of us in the academic and research category. So what is their own fate? What do they need to look towards to? Are there special provision for this category in any of the finance, that's green finance of space? And the person is also asking, and this is also direct to you, that what are the opportunities for interns to intern with FDB when it comes to the green financing department, or whether there's a general climate project virtually or in person that they can engage themselves?
Okay, thank you, Olumide, and thank you to the person asking the question. The role of research and academia, cannot be overemphasized. In fact, climate smart agriculture is an invention of the research community. The International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, for example, is a research and science-based institution that is developing early maturing varieties of seeds and drought-tolerant varieties of seeds that contributes to climate smart agriculture. So clearly, it is a role that they play. Currently, the bank's Circular Economy Initiative, which is which has a working group, for example, in Nigeria. This working group comprises of people from the academia as well, because we believe that the role of research is key in developing the technologies that can be used to drive climate change, mitigation and adaptation achievements. The results of research will be able to feed directly into policy documents that can address some of the strategic areas that constitute missing gaps. And capacity that we can ultimately be able to achieve green economy in the long term. In terms of internship opportunities, well, the bank has different areas of contributing to our work. As you can come in as an intern. I think there's an application procedure you can check online. If you want more targeted guidance, you can reach out to me through the EET Foundation on how to work as an intern, as a consultant, or as a bank staff. But all our recruitment processes is online for everyone to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think maybe it's because it's coming from an institution that is actually leading the way forward on green finance and climate finance. That's why the question is actually coming to you often. So thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for every other people that have been on this call. Thank you to all the attendees. I want to give let me say, 30 seconds to, let me say 1 minute each to all our speakers to give their closing remark, because today have been a very informative session, a webinar that the issue of green financing is now like a household conversation for everybody, different sectors across the globe that we need to start looking at and start talking about. And I think from today onwards, everybody will have that opportunity to ask more questions and to also start looking for that benefit, or every way to start tapping into green financing. And it is very, very important. I think I will first of all call the Embassy of Sweden to give his own closing remark as we are moving closer to the end of the event. Thank you very much. Embassy of Sweden.
That's great. Thank you very much, Olumide, and good afternoon to everyone. It's been great conversation following through. Sadly, Anna had to jump into another meeting, but we're very glad to have shared with you the Swedish approach to green finance, and to have also listened into the very interesting conversations from all the speakers, Maria, Dr. Ona, our friend from Uganda. It's really great to see the quality of this conversation, and we hope that going forward, we can get more young people to access these finances and to also be very accountable for how they spend it to shape a green future that we all work towards. So again, I want to say thank you again, especially to the organizers, the 111112 Foundation, and wish everyone the best.
Thank you very much from the Embassy of Sweden. Thanks for giving the opportunity and the collaboration and partnership with 111112 Foundation, and being able to bring this to every young people across the globe, and to everybody that is interested in green financing as well. The next person I'm going to be calling here is going to be Maria to give us our own closing remark.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I've also learned a lot as I've been sharing. It's been an honor to be present. Thank you so much, Dr. Innocent, for your amazing remarks. And also Sembacha, I think he has left. And thank you, Olumide, for being a wonderful host. And I hope we can continue to innovate and bring finance closer to the people that need it.
Thank you very much, Maria. And we also look forward to the Global Youth Climate Fund that you are talking about, so that as much as possible, people can be able to tap into it. And it's a very good initiative, because a lot of young people are actually looking for how to build back better after this issue of the COVID, and making sure that post-COVID is very important for young people as well. So we look forward to that. Thank you for coming, and we hope to have you some other time on this same conversation and same topic. Now, let me go to Dr. Innocent. Sir, we need your closing remark. And as you're giving your closing remark, I don't mind if you can also merge it with these two very good questions about health benefit from green finance. Then talk about extension agent. What does it take to be one? Somebody just asked. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh,
hello,
okay.
doctor. Okay.
I was actually responding online onto the question on extension agents, but I can answer again. I was just typing it while you were asking. So from the African Development Bank, we want to thank the EET Foundation for such an inspiring webinar. It speaks to one of the critical challenges facing our time. COVID-19 has impacted us in a way that nobody ever expected. So it is important for us to develop recovery mechanisms that will be able to stand the test of time. The bank is pushing for building back better. Building back better means doing things in a more sustainable manner, including greening our economies. The bank's Climate Change and Green Growth Department will continue to provide services to our regional member countries to build the capacity of our member states on how to better assess green financing for their different projects to help them build back better. On the question of extension agents, that was particularly directed towards answering the question about getting local farmers involved in green financing. Because of where they belong at the bottom of the pyramid and the supposed lack of adequate information to make them bring their projects and their businesses into bankability and readiness, I was only suggesting that perhaps we could use extension agents. Extension agents are people, trained people. You know, this could be youths, it could be women who will be able to take the messaging to the rural communities and also do another training, which I also say, or which I also call training of the trainers. So for example, the bank could train some Nigerian youths who are interested in climate financing, and then they could become extension agents that will take it to the grassroots level to the smallholder farmers, because they do not have the knowledge required to be able to develop their projects to bankability. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to Dr. Innocent. Thanks to Maria. Thanks to our brother from Uganda. And thanks to the special thanks to the Embassy of Sweden to Nigeria. It has been a great conversation today. And let me quickly remind us that this conversation, like Doctor said, is coming at a very great time as we are looking forward to build back better, building a sustainable future for everyone. And we also remember that this conversation also is here to educate us and to engage us more effectively in how we can start adapting and how we can start looking at mitigation strategy, and how we also be able to reduce the impact of the environment across African continent. This is a very great conversation today, and I'm very happy to also host this and moderate this session, because it has been a great conversation. For me personally, I've learned a lot from all the speakers, and I'm looking forward to see more collaboration, both with the speakers, both with the attendees. And as we move forward, we'll be able to now see a sustainable future for us as an individual, as an entity, as a continent. And as we know that Africa is actually a blessed a land, that we need to start looking for a sustainable way to build together, to make sure that we get ourselves together. Once more, my name is Olumide Idowu, and I'm talking to you from Nigeria, Lagos State, as a co-founder of International Climate Change Development Initiative. This third week, the week 3 of our green financing conversation is coming to an end. And my last statement here is to give a good appreciation to 1111 Foundation for putting this together. And we also look forward to have more of this in the nearest future. Thank you very much, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you, Olumide. And let's talk offline about the Atlas Store thing. Let's talk offline.
All right. Thank you, sir.